Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Eddie Hearn is finally doing interviews. And surprisingly enough, he's actually giving some credit to Usyk. And, that's what you like to see. He's not being a sore loser necessarily. But he's, in my opinion, giving Usyk too much credit. And I think he's doing that solely because, Usyk and Tyson Fury are looking to fight. And Eddie Hearn, to me, has been sipping a little bit of haterade and is just not being, it's his opinion, but he's just not being fair to Tyson Fury, what Tyson Fury brings to the table. Because he says that he feels Tyson Fury can win the fight, but he feels that he's going to lose. He feels that Usyk is going to defeat Tyson Fury. And let me tell you, look, I'm not biased to any of this, man. But I'm just going to be straight with you, right? Let's just be straight. Usyk can move every second of every round. He does a lot of feints. He gets you out of position. He counters. He turns you, right? And he was able to. Let's look at the fighters that he's done that against. Okay, the first 3 or 4 or 5 heavyweights, and this includes Joshua. Usyk was able to get in there and have a lot of success. He struggled a little bit with Chaz Witherspoon because it was much bigger, and Usyk was probably just trying to see how it felt to get hit and just getting his feet wet and getting comfortable in a new environment. Because sparring a heavyweight and actually being in there to fight, it's 2 different things. When you walk into the arena and you have all these fans, it's a different type of stress, and that can affect your overall performance. But anyway, he gets in there with Chisora. Chisora kind of showed the style. He showed the style you need to beat a guy like Usyk. Kind of like with Mayweather. You can't just be out there chasing around and boxing him. You got to maul him, okay? And that's not what AJ did. And that's not what many fighters did with Mayweather. And the second thing is, it's just not that easy to corner a guy like Mayweather and maul him unless you do like Maidana and just don't care and go all out, balls to the wall. So when you look at AJ and Usyk, AJ just didn't do that. But when you look at a guy like Fury, with his size, with his dimensions, why in the world would Tyson Fury have to maul Usyk to win a fight? He doesn't have to. Now, is Tyson Fury going to use his weight? Is he going to use his size advantage? Of course, but he's not just going to fall in on him. You see, there were things Tyson Fury was able to do against Deontay Wilder that we weren't used to seeing Tyson Fury do. Grab a guy, lay on him. But Tyson Fury was actually grabbing on Wilder and laying on him so he can throw that little sneaky right uppercut. Because he knew that Deontay Wilder would drop his head. And that was a bad habit Deontay Wilder developed over the course of those last 2 fights. And he was paying dearly because that little, holding him on the inside and Fury shooting that little short inside uppercut, that landed almost every single time. Now, we talk about the uppercut. When Tyson Fury fought Dillian White, he wasn't holding him and mauling him and throwing that short uppercut on the inside. But he boxed him, he worked him. I think he knew that Dillian White was dangerous with the big left hook, and Dillian White was a guy who was going to come at him. But he waited for the right time, and he threw that uppercut. That was textbook, man. He didn't dip. He shot it from right there, man. Right position, a short, crisp lead uppercut, and got White out of there. You think about a guy like Usyk, he's not going to stand there. But Usyk has a bad habit of wanting to come in and then come back out and not throw any punches. He does that just to put stress on you. When you look at a guy like Fury and Usyk, you got to say the fight will be competitive. That's fair to say. But I just don't think it's fair to say Usyk beats Tyson Fury. How a good big man always beats a good little man, okay? And that's what majority of people would say. And we just have to be fair here. But forget all that. We talk about overall strength. See, there's certain attributes that most champions possess, okay? The number one thing is just be the strength, okay? Who's the stronger fighter out of the two? Got to give that to Tyson Fury, man. You know, that's something you need to beat your opponent, man. You know, you're not gonna win fights if you're not able to hurt your opponent. If you're not able to get in there and tussle and manhandle your opponent. You know, you got to be able to impose your size on them and put some stress on your opponent. And if you can't do that, you don't have enough strength. Well, then there's other attributes you're gonna have to depend on. But having a lot of strength really helps you. And then the power, the explosiveness in your shots. Which one of these guys have more power and more explosiveness? Usyk he has strong hands. He does, but when it comes to fighting these gargantuans and you're comparing him to Tyson Fury, who's more explosive? Who has more power? Now they can hurt each other, but who do you think will get hurt more if a clean punch was to be landed? You got to say Usyk would probably struggle at getting clipped by Tyson Fury. And, you know, we can go on and on about Tyson Fury and this newfound strength since he fought Wilder. Look, man, Tyson Fury, out of how many of his fights, how many ended by knockout? Quite a bit, more than half. So Tyson Fury got a little bit of pop there. But definitely he found a way to get his weight behind his punches, and Sugar Hill and him, they concocted something because it's been working. And for some of you guys watching this video saying, yeah, he's putting egg weights in his gloves, he's taking the padding out. Again, I'm not going to get into that, but I would say this. If Jermell Charlo, after leaving Ronnie Shields, goes over to Derek James and becomes a knockout puncher, a one-punch knockout artist by changing trainers, right? If he can do it, why can't a 260-plus pound man do it? So that's my question. We just got to be fair. I'm not here to get into all that crap about Fury and, his gloves. I mean, hell, he knocked Derek Chisora out. But my thing is, if Fury can all of a sudden become this devastating KO artist, and Jermell Charlo can become a devastating KO artist, what's the problem? Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay. But you got to be able to hit these guys with some heavy shots, man. And that explosiveness, I would say Usyk is probably more explosive, which I mean can push off that back foot and close the distance a lot quicker. But Tyson Fury can do it too. But I would say explosiveness, I probably get a little bit more to Usyk. But power and strength, you definitely have to give that to Tyson Fury. And we talk about some of these guys, like the best fighters and these champions, they have powerful backs, shoulders, and powerful legs. And the legs, the back, the shoulders, definitely the arms. Those are those characteristics, man, that you need to land, fight-ending blows over and over again. And Tyson Fury, yeah, he's a little soft in the midsection, but Tyson Fury definitely has strong legs, strong shoulders, strong back. And I think overall, when we're talking about strength, power, and explosiveness, I got to give the edge to Tyson Fury in those departments. Okay? I'm not saying that Usyk doesn't have it, but when compared to Tyson Fury, it doesn't matter how he looks flabby. There's something there to Tyson Fury, and I just think Usyk could be in over his head. Now we're going to talk about the other thing, right? Technique. To be a boxing champion, there has to be some kind of technique. Doesn't matter if you're fighting on the inside, you're fighting on the outside. If you're a boxer, puncher, free swinger, slugger, or brawler. Doesn't matter what style you bring. There has to be some technique behind your style. You just can't get in there winging punches with no technique at all. It doesn't matter how hard your hands are. You'll get your ass tore out the frame. So when you think about it, technique, right off the top, you want to almost give that to Usyk, right? Because of the angles and the different things that he's able to create. And a lot of stuff that Usyk does, he does it on the fly while he's in the ring. Some of those angles and the opportunity, the offensive opportunities he creates for himself, that's not something that you can train for. That's just something that's happening real time. And you feel bad for his opponent, like a guy like AJ, who's the stuff that's happening is nowhere in the world he could possibly prepare for it. That's like trying to prepare for a prime Manny Pacquiao. Who the hell could get in there and emulate Pacquiao? You know, Mayweather, who can really come in there and give you the. Shane Mosley was talking about, I have the speed, I can, give him the best look, Mayweather look possible. No, you can't. Okay, it's just some fighters you just can't do it, and Usyk is one of those fighters you just can't emulate his style and his technique. He's just a special fighter. Tyson Fury is special too, but I would have to say when it comes to technique, man, it just depends on what you want to look at. But I would say you got to give. That's a hard one, man. Usyk is not a brawler. He's a boxer puncher. There are times where if he knows you're starting to get winded, he will let all the slick boxing stuff go out the window, and he will stand in the pocket and let shots go. So Usyk will adapt different techniques and different styles during the fight, but he's going to make sure whatever style he chooses to adapt at that moment in time is going to be safe, and it's going to be the right moment. He's not going to sit there and force something. Now, Tyson Fury, he can do it all. We know he can do it all. We've seen him do it all. And if you've never seen Tyson Fury fight outside of those Wilder fights, well, you've seen every style, every technique that a person can employ in a fight to win, and possibly win in those fights. Fury boxed, he brawled. Fury got in there, he slugged. He was a puncher boxer. Fury did. He was a free swinger. Fury did everything. He was extremely defensive when he had to be. Fury showed that he can adapt any style to any situation in those Wilder fights. And I just don't think Usyk is going to bring the type of problems that Wilder brings. But as far as what Usyk brings to the ring, Fury's already showed that he can adapt. And with his size and his dimensions, and Fury has extremely sound technique. I think he started boxing at 10. You got to give, to me, I think technique-wise, I'd have to say Usyk. But again, you got to go with Fury in this area, because for him to be 6'9", almost 6'10", float like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, it's hard to me, it's just hard to give Usyk anything over Tyson Fury. I'm just being honest with you, man. Because you got to look at, when it comes to the technique, who can effectively use that when it's needed, right? But also be able to defend against the style that their opponent's using. And I'd have to get at the Tyson Fury, man. Someone can be an incredible boxer. An incredible boxer, man. But if you can't handle shots, you're going to go napping. And Usyk can be hurt to the body and to the head. But Joshua kind of exposed Usyk with those body shots. Tyson Fury isn't really a body puncher. For those of you who are saying, oh, he knocked Wilder down with a body shot. Man, Wilder went down from fatigue. That wasn't no damn body shot that knocked him down. He got hit in the body and he was already going down. It wasn't no body shot that hurt Wilder. Wilder was already, one step there more, heading up into the clouds. He was having an out of body experience. But we just gotta be fair here when it comes to Tyson Fury, what he brings to the ring, and as far as the technique. Now, endurance, I'd have to get at the Tyson Fury too. Okay? Yeah, Usyk is mentally strong. Usyk was able to level up, but he showed fatigue, man. He shows fatigue in his fights. Tyson Fury never shows fatigue. So endurance, this is, to me, is clear as day. You got to give the endurance and stamina to Tyson Fury. Got to give it to him. Now, if we're talking about punch output, Tyson Fury can throw. Look at what he did against a guy like Wilder. What do you think he's going to do against a guy like Usyk? He doesn't have to throw all those shots, but he can. Now, Usyk threw, I think, 700-something punches, more than double, I think, like the heavyweight average. That's from him coming up at a cruiserweight. So he still has that ability to do it. But he had to throw those kind of punches to keep the AJ monster off of his backside. I tell you what, right? If Usyk, if his punch output was decreased by 100 punches, who wins that fight between him and AJ this past weekend? AJ wins, easy, right? AJ wins that fight easy. But Usyk had that ability to level up. He had that mental toughness to be like, I can't let this guy win this fight. And AJ just wasn't able to go there mentally when he needed to. He just couldn't bring it together. So I think when it comes to endurance, mental endurance, I'm going to give it to Usyk. I'm going to give it to Usyk. But Tyson Fury has it as well, because he's got to show that, man, to want to get back in the ring with a guy like Wilder, get clipped like he did, and then still press on and get hurt several times throughout the fight, especially in the third fight, and to keep pressing. That just shows that Tyson Fury has what it takes up here as well. And that's one of the things that's really intriguing about the fight between Fury and Usyk, is both of them are mentally strong and have mental endurance. So if for some reason, which I doubt it will happen, Tyson Fury finds himself in trouble against Usyk, Tyson Fury has what it takes to stay calm and to push through it. Because one thing we know, Usyk's not going to hit Tyson Fury the way Wilder did. That's just not going to happen. It's impossible. So when you look at that, right, just that alone, why the hell are you giving Usyk a chance to beat him? Yeah, it's boxing, anything can happen. Usyk clipping Fury? If Deontay Wilder couldn't, how the hell is Usyk gonna outbox him? He can't outbox him. He has more powerful. He has the big Wilder right hand. No, he doesn't. So let's be practical here, man. Usyk is a great fighter. He's not beating Tyson Fury, but endurance-wise, I think I'd have to give that to Usyk. Because what that endurance does is when you're on your back foot and you're hurt, and you have that endurance, it enables you to be able to fight back more effectively and to recover from a position of weakness. And Usyk showed that. He showed he was able to do that. Tyson Fury did too, but since Usyk just fought, and especially against the monster he was fighting, I'd have to give that to Usyk. I'd have to give the endurance to Usyk, man. And, when you talk about a lot of fighters getting first round knockouts and then struggle to get guys out of there, and they get to the third, fourth, and fifth round, then a lot of times you see their opponents come on to get the win, right? Because those guys, it's hard for them to process, okay, I'm outside the first round, I'm outside the second round, I'm outside the third round. I'm in uncharted territory here. I've never been here. And that's where you see their mental endurance goes, and their physical endurance and stamina, all that goes out the window, because once you're stressed mentally, that affects you physically. And all of that goes out the window. And I think that's what you're seeing happening to Joshua. So Joshua, in my opinion, will be a case of a guy who definitely lacks the mental endurance. And that, I think, affected his physical as well. High pain tolerance, right? If you're a boxer, and when we're talking about technique and all that, we're talking about having the IQ and the awareness in the ring and knowing what to do. All that falls underneath that umbrella. So I'm not skipping anything. But to me, it falls all underneath that umbrella. But high pain tolerance is something else, man. Both of these guys showed that they can take a shot and they can bounce back. But I think Fury definitely has a higher tolerance when it comes to pain, just because of what the hell he got hit with by Deontay Wilder in those fights, and was able to get back up, man. You can't be made of glass, and you just can't buckle when your opponent lands a hard shot. And I don't care if it's to the jaw, the stomach. I don't care what it is, man. You got to be able to push through that pain, ignore it, and focus on the job at hand. And when you think about the amount of punishment, I say Tyson Fury went through, and Usyk went through some punishment in that 9th round. He really did. But when you look at the amount of punishment these guys were taking, to me, it's essential that they not only tolerate a lot of pain, but that they push through it, no matter how much it hurts. And I'd have to give Tyson Fury the edge there. Now, we kind of talked about the mental endurance or the mental strength, but I mean, hey, I'd have to give that to, I don't know, that may be tied. That may be equal. That may be equal. Who is definitely stronger mentally? Who was able to keep a clear head during a fight? You think about Usyk. Usyk is really good at keeping a clear head, seeing what's going on, having that awareness. Tyson Fury is really good at keeping a clear head, knowing what's going on, knowing what to do. Very aware of the referee's presence. So you gotta look at that. Which one of these guys has that? Which one of these guys have that, man? And that like that self-belief that no matter who's standing in front of you doesn't have the ability to beat you. Now those words in particular, who has that self-belief that the person in front of you cannot beat you? That's Tyson Fury all the way. That damn John Fury, right? They just can't see themselves losing. Usyk is a guy who has a really high opinion of himself, but he doesn't boast. He doesn't brag. But it's almost unfair because Usyk is a small guy. He knows he's going in there handicapped with these monsters, so he has to be on top of his game. Fury's a big guy. He's bigger than almost everybody he fights. So he should already have no way in the world this guy should beat me. He's too small, That's why he's calling Usyk. What's he calling him? Not a super middleweight, not a featherweight, light heavy. He called him a cruiser. There's something else he was calling Usyk. But I think it's a cruiserweight. It was something else he was calling him. But anyway, he was talking about what the weight that Usyk used to fight at when he was an amateur. And Tyson Fury was saying, there's no way in the world it wasn't middleweight, man. But whatever it was, he's saying, a super middleweight, I think. He's like, no way in the world this super middleweight can beat me. But we all know that Usyk is no longer, fighting at 168 pounds. Usyk is a monster. And but at the end of the day, I think Tyson Fury got to give him the nod when it comes to mental strength, man. And being a fighter is one of the hardest jobs in the world. And, that training side of things is just hard. It's hard to put yourself through that. I don't know, man. I think that's what I would do. Because that same motivation and self-belief you need when you step in that ring is that same motivation and self-belief when you're coming off of injuries, when you're getting hurt. And that same self-belief and motivation you need to drive you to compete. And I think it's, I may have to give the edge to Usyk because it's probably easier when you're much bigger than the opponent to drive yourself to get into training, to drive yourself to get in that ring because you already know, out of 10 areas, you have the advantage of 9. But when you're the smaller man and you're basically equally matched in these areas we're talking about, except for the size where you're handicapped, or even if let's say you're equally matched, right? But you're size-wise, you're handicapped. It's still going to be a bit tougher to get in the ring with somebody like that or to train. You're going to go in there a bit more cautious. But for Usyk to still get in there and fight, want to fight, and now have Deontay Wilder as the backup plan to Tyson Fury, you got to give the mental, and they're both mentally strong. But you can go back and forth on this one. But you got to give Usyk some credit, man. I just think you got to give him some credit. But there are definitely some other factors that separate, I think, good fighters from champions. But these that we mentioned, I think, are easily, in my opinion, some of the most important ones if these guys want to be successful. And especially these other guys like the Andersons, Big Baby Anderson out there who's coming up, who's going to make some noise, a Hrgovic, a Zhang, any of these heavyweights who are fighting. If they want to get to this elite level, like what you're seeing with, even AJ, he's still elite. AJ, Usyk, Wilder, Fury. If they want to get there, these aforementioned things we talked about are the things that they're going to have to look at. It's just some of them. We didn't go over every quality, every attribute, but this is, to me, is a handful of those things that makes a champion. Now, when we talk about Fury and Usyk, and the things we went over, you got to give Fury the advantage in all those areas. We're doing a stoplight chart. Fury's side would be like 95% green. and Usyk's side would be 95% red. You know, it doesn't mean he doesn't have that. It just means you got to give the edge to Fury in those areas. If we had to choose somebody, got to be Fury in most of those areas. So, not understanding how, you know, Eddie Hearn could come out here, man, and say the fight's gonna be boring, Tyson Fury's gonna lose. You know, that's just him being a hater, man. He's sour. He's still sour. But AJ's gonna be fine. Shit, AJ was out there. Him and Eddie Hearn were talking after the fight, and Eddie Hearn is, AJ is gutted right now because he really wanted to fight Tyson Fury. But you know what? When he looks at it, it's his fault, man. Look, we know promoters are all about themselves. That's why they have these rematches and they set everything up to where they have, you know, trilogies. Sometimes the way these contracts are written, you'll have the first fight, then there'll be a rematch, and then there'll be a contract for a third fight, depending on if someone wins. If it's like someone wins the first one, the other guy wins the second one, then you have the third one. Sometimes it's written where it's 3 fights no matter what, especially if they feel their guy can keep winning. They do some crazy stuff in these contracts. But you know who suffers at the end of the day is the fighter. The fighter has a choice. But the promoters are all about making money. That's what it's all about. That's why when AJ and Usyk, some people felt there was no need to see a second fight. They really felt like, why are we watching the second fight? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because, you know, AJ and Hearn are shrewd businessmen. That first fight, AJ got paid the lion's share. The second fight, the rematch, he had no belts. He got paid the lion's share. And if they could do it their way, they'd do a third match where AJ would get the lion's share. But, you know, Usyk doesn't have a dumb team. They knew that they believe he can get in there and do the business and get it done, and he did. Now he's off to the next. And that's just how it goes, man. It's like looking at, you know, what's going on with Haney and Kambosos right now. That's, I think, an even more extreme case of not needing to see a damn rematch. But I do think, like I posted in a comment with somebody in one of the chats, that if the referee can stop Haney from holding so damn much, then Kambosos has a shot. But that's lopsided, that shit with Haney and Kambosos. But with AJ, I would, you know, part of me would still like to see a third fight with AJ and Usyk. But when AJ just comes in here and just like coming there like raw Mike Tyson, like just does not care, Roberto Duran, spit on your kids type attitude. But AJ's not like that, man. He's a nice person, you know. Yeah, he has a dark side to him. We're all human. Shit, you push a few buttons in me, there's some stuff that's dormant in me that may surface, and then there's a problem. But you know, you shouldn't have to, you know, you don't have to walk around like that. But when it's time to get in there and fight, it's a damn fight. And like I always say, man, I haven't said in a while, but if I'm in the ring fighting with you, if I could kick you, if I could bite you, if I could elbow you, if I could pick you up and throw you down, if the referee will let me do it, I've learned to do it. I've been in sparring matches. I've had boxing matches, you know, as an amateur, and I've done a lot of smokers too. Fools in the ring, man. And them dudes will kill you, man. They'll come in there and rush at you. You there trying to box, they'll rush and just tackle you. Knock you over and shit, man, you know? And you fall down and stumble and trying to keep your balance and fall all crazy. The crowd is like gasping, oh, looking like you got knocked down, and you're standing up. Referee got your gloves, wiping them off, and you're like, the effing man pushed me down. And he's like, I know. And he goes back and he's talking to the guy. This really happened to me. And I look over my corner, telling me to stay calm, man. I just see red. Like, I want to kill this guy. And you know, that's what I tried to goddamn do, man. And I seen that guy. As a matter of fact, I seen that guy like 4 years later. I was in a club, and that guy was in the club, and I was looking at him and I was laughing because he had glow sticks. You know those damn glow sticks? And there was some techno music playing. He was like, blam, doing all that spinning bullshit. And I was like, that's the idiot that tackled me in the ring, and I'm knocked out. And my friends and I were laughing. And when I saw the guy, you know, I didn't clown him. I laughed about the glow stick shit because that was funny. I see a grown man spinning glow sticks. And I was like, what's up, man? And he was looking at me, and he was like, oh, yeah. And he was telling all this. He was drunk. Hey, this is the guy. Hey, this guy kicked my ass. I was like, yeah, because you tackled me, stupid. And we laughed at it and everything, you know, and I think I bought him a drink. At that time, I wasn't even drinking. I don't drink now, but during that period, I definitely wasn't drinking, man. I bought him a little drink, and shit, he went back out there with his glow sticks and that damn techno music, man. the techno Viking type shit he was doing. But yeah. It is what it is. You got to be mean in boxing sometimes, man. And AJ's just not that guy. So I'll leave you guys with that, man. But Tyson Fury, you got to give him the edge. Eddie Hearn, stop hating. He's sour. AJ will bounce back. I like AJ. But I tell you what I do think. I think this version of AJ returning, is going to be a monster. I really do. Man, he's pissed. He doesn't like what people are saying about him. AJ to me should never have a defeat. Right where he's at in his career, he should be undefeated. I genuinely feel that way. Because he's that talented, he's that skillful, he's that powerful. He's got this, he had the mental strength. He had the endurance. Andy Ruiz zapped it out of him. He can get it back. But a guy like Robert Garcia can help him. But I don't know if he and Robert Garcia are going to stay together. But he can get it back, man. He's got it. But easier said than done, I guess. That being said, y'all keep cool. I appreciate the support. Shout out to everybody. A lot of people popping up now as subscribers who are from all over the world. And man, I really enjoy the inputs. You can say anything, you don't offend me, man. Let's try to keep it respectful. But we can agree to disagree. But I appreciate everybody's inputs. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to everyone. Stay safe this weekend. I'm in the breeze.